Libra, welcome to your weekly reading. I'm going to do a general collective reading for the end of February going into that first week of March. We're going to take a look at the actions that either you're performing or that are being performed upon you, reactions, and outcomes. This is a general reading, of course, so take what resonates, use your discernment, leave what doesn't resonate, and put yourself where you see fit. This is for all Libra placements as well as cross watchers. And for those who don't know, I am a Libra moon. So let's get started. Spirit, I thank you for the opportunity to read for the Libra collective today. I ask for clear and concise messages as well as protection for myself, the message, and the viewer as we go through this act of divination together. Thank you. Ashe, Amin. All right, so we've been kind of rocking with it. I know I've been really busy with school and work and everything, so it's really nice to come back here and read for the collective. It's very cathartic for me. All right, we've been going through this time of deep interchange. So our inner world is finally starting to clear up for a lot of us. It's been kind of cloudy because we've been traversing new territory that we really haven't explored before in our personal, psychological and emotional, spiritual state. And so now it looks like we're finally getting to a point where we have our footing and our outer world is starting to respond to that of our inner world and its configuration. So I'm going to read from my classic Rider-Waite tarot deck. I've had this deck for like 6 years now. And then I'm going to pull clarifying cards from the Tarot Nefertari as needed. And then at the end, I'll send you off with some advice from my Keepers of the Light Oracle deck. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. What do I need to know regarding actions? We are heading into Mercury retrograde. And with that being said, I like to emphasize whenever this comes up, we have the High Priestess here. Whenever this comes up, don't really fret. Just understand that this is a... Okay, I'm going to take both of these, actually. This is a time, at least for how I like to use it, it's a time of deep reflection and planning. I would be a little hesitant to execute certain things unless it was something I was already working on, but just being a lot more cautious. I wouldn't say fearful, just mindful of the fact that communication lines can sometimes get crossed and, people could be in their own heads. Everyone deals with Mercury retrograde differently, even people who are not exactly as aware of what's going on energetically and spiritually as others on a conscious level. Subconsciously, they know that something is off, right? So they might be struggling with that in their own way, or their own energy might become twisted, and they might interpret something that you've said in a certain way that maybe you didn't mean it that way. So just things like that. Be mindful, but don't be fearful. All right, so you have finally stepped into a period of trusting your intuition. We have the High Priestess here as your action. You are finally in lockstep, walking like hand in hand with your higher self. You might be going deeper into your particular spiritual practice, whether that includes meditation, prayer, chanting, affirmations, subliminals, mantras, whatever it is that you're doing. You found your stride and you feel as though you can deeply trust your intuition with your decision making, and you're not really leaning upon your ego. You're also finding, I'm getting, that you're not struggling with your ego as much when you are tapping into intuition. A lot of times we tend to have this tug of war between our intuition and our ego when we are evaluating various stimuli in our environment, whether that is what someone has said to us or us reflecting upon a situation that has happened, or even in real time, how we react to situations. So you found your stride spiritually and intuitively, and you're very much continuing to run with that baton. As a reaction, you have the 9 of Pentacles and the 4 of Swords. So mentally, you are at ease. The gears aren't turning as fast as they used to in your mind, not because you're not smart or not because you're not aware, but because you don't need to do so much conscious, like, rendering of, you don't need to do as much conscious synthesis of thoughts and conclusions, because you have that link on the back end between you can tell, geez, if you couldn't, I wonder if you could, the way I speak, I'm like, wow, you really can tell what I do for work. Based on how I speak. That's hilarious. This is not a computer we're talking about. We're talking about people. Venus, get it together, girl. But, oh man, I am an engineer. I started my career back in 2018, and that's what I do. And when I'm not dabbling in my hobbies here. So if you hear a little bit of like techie language bleed into how I talk, I apologize. It just happens. But you have that connection between your subconscious mind and your conscious mind because of the intuitive powerhouse that you have running now. So because now you're coming from a more intuitive place, you are locked in, as the kids are saying, with your higher self. You don't need to do so much racking of your brain when it's time to make decisions, when it's time to decide how you want to show up in the world. And because of that, it frees you up to finally receive the abundance and the clarity that you have been looking for quite some time. Now, every collective is different, and energies and timelines kind of cross over and intersect in different ways, right? And because of this, every collective every viewer is not going to resonate with every message. So for those who I am speaking to, you've kind of been in a position I'm getting where maybe things weren't coming to you as easy as you would have liked, and you were trying to figure out what it is that you were doing in the physical plane that was hindering you from being able to draw in that which you were seeking, whether it was abundance of money, abundance of good health, abundance of peace of mind, abundance of whatever. You couldn't figure out what it was that you were doing in the 3D in order to bring about what you were looking for. So you eventually went inward and realized that it was nothing. There's nothing that you could have done in the 3D that was going to get you mentally and spiritually where you are as a reaction in the present. There's nothing that you could have done in the 3D to get you to where you wanted to be. It was something that you had to go within and address spiritually, emotionally, mentally. That way it would manifest itself physically. Remember in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken in this reading, I was babbling about how essentially our inner world is what kind of starts to shape our outer world, right? Because perception is reality. So now you're in a place where you're able to watch the fruits of your labor start rolling in with the Seven of Pentacles. So it looks like you're in a really good place, Libra. I am so happy that I'm a Libra moon. I have more of an incentive to give it to you as raw as I can, as raw as I'm comfortable with these readings, because I have skin in the game. I am a Libra moon, baby. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get a little bit of clarification going. I feel like I've yapped long enough, but a lot of what I like to do here on this channel is bring forth how to weave in. Yeah, look at that. You're coming from a place of inner conflict. This is not, with the Five of Wands, a lot of times people will interpret as conflict between others, which it can be interpreted that way. But here, you were really fighting with self. You were in a period, maybe you were even chastising yourself in your mind. Your self-talk maybe could have been negative. Years ago, my therapist told me that our self-talk is oftentimes an echo of it's like the disembodied voice of our caregiver, or the person who we put a lot of trust and stock into when we were young, and maybe they criticized us or they didn't handle us with the care that we would have needed to thrive emotionally. And so what can happen is that disembodied voice, let's just say, for example, let's just say it's your mom, right? Let's say your mom was hypercritical of you growing up, and it really messed with your sense of self. Now your inner voice as an adult, you might be 30 years old, you might be 40, 50, 60 years old, but your inner voice, your mom's voice, she might have crossed over and is an ancestor now. But her voice still lives on. That critical voice lives on in your mind. And so you finally, it looks like you're putting that to bed as you're coming to this place of peace. Right? We have the Magician here. Now you're able to slip right into easy manifestation mode. You might not even realize, like I'm kind of getting this as well, where like you don't realize how powerful your tongue is. Like you're still not used to the power that you've unlocked yet. You don't yet realize how powerful whenever you say things. So respectfully, please watch your mouth as you go through this retrograde season. If somebody pisses you off, please, I'm begging you, Libra, please think about what it is you are about to let fly from your lips, baby. Because let me tell you something. You don't realize how powerful your tongue is. You don't realize how powerful your mind is. Some of the dreams that you've been having, you might have started to realize like, oh shit, like I think I'm having premonitions. I think I have the gift of sight. You might not have had that before, or you might have just thought, oh, I'm just a lucid dreamer. Start keeping a dream journal. I've said this in the past. If you've been having like weird dreams, especially if they're repetitive dreams, keep it at the bedside. So or like under your pillow. So as soon as you get up, you can write it down. We have Justice, Libra energy. Right? So you're standing very firm in your own energy. You can literally conjure up like anything out of thin air. It's kind of wild. All right. So, man, I'm really happy. I'm happy for this particular collective because I feel like you deserve it. It's, my God, what a time it's been. What a time it has been, honey. So yeah, just be mindful. Like I know I said it just now, and but like I really don't think you realize just how powerful. Like, let's say for example you're arguing with somebody. Heaven forbid, I don't want you to be arguing with people. But let's just say that you're arguing with somebody, right? And you say something in anger, but like it's not malicious, like false. Like you're not lying or just saying anything to get under their skin. Like you read them. Like like you're gonna end up just like your I don't know, insert relative. You're going to end up, you see how they're isolated and alone? Nobody wants to come around them. Nobody wants to come visit them in the nursing home. You're going to end up just like that if you keep acting like this. And then boom, something happens where that person, God forbid, knock on wood, ends up in the hospital and nobody wants to go visit their raggedy ass because they've alienated everybody by being nasty and you try to check them. So just be mindful. Stuff like that. Like you don't even realize how powerful your tongue is yet. Please be mindful of how you use that. For whoever that resonates with, you're welcome. All right, advice flew right out. So we have Mahavatar Babaji, soul expansion. Your consciousness is expanding. You understand the connections between all things. Didn't I just say this with the High Priestess? So just keep that in mind, okay? We also have the Miriam, sacred vision. Choose to forgive in order to heal. See the light in all and remember that love has no boundaries. So I want to make a quick note on forgiveness as we head into retrograde season because maybe I'm not seeing it here, but I am going to do a love reading for Libra and we'll specifically get into that. You can also check out previous readings to give you contextual understanding of where you might have been or patterns that might have popped up in your life in certain cycles in the recent past. And it might even resonate with you in the moment. But you need to understand that there's always a possibility that somebody that you used to deal with in the past, whether it was platonically, romantically, business, or otherwise, could come up again, and you can't predict exactly how those types of interactions will go. They're like wild cards, especially during Mercury retrograde. So with that being said, forgiveness is not something, I know it sounds cliche, but it's not something you do for other people. And when I say forgiveness, I specifically mean the process of being able to extract the lesson from the experience so that you don't have to go through that karmic cycle again. But also, because it's like repeating a grade. That's embarrassing. I've never repeated a grade, but I had a cousin who repeated a grade and like our other cousins never let him live it down. It's embarrassing, right? And he wasn't even like, he just didn't do his homework because he was addicted to video games when he was a kid. Anyway, so you are now in this space where when we say forgiveness, I mean specifically this on this channel, okay, or here in this corner. you're able to extract the lesson, and you're able to also process and validate the emotional component. So let's just say you went through a bad breakup. You're able to process and extract the lesson, distill the lesson. The lesson might have been, hey, when somebody shows you who they are the first time, listen to them. And if that means you are not comfortable and you want to leave, then cool. Save yourself some heartache. The emotional component, you would have to process the pain and the betrayal and the trauma and the sadness and the feelings of inadequacy. Those things you would process, you validate yourself, nothing's wrong with me for feeling the way that I did. I felt this way because blah, 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 and whatever. Journal, do whatever you need to do, sing about it, whatever. Like whatever helps you process the emotional component for you. Process it fully and properly. Learn the lesson, extract the lesson, reflect upon the lesson. There, boom, done. Congratulations, you've forgiven that person. It doesn't mean that you've absolved them of their crimes and that they're just completely, they're innocent now and you can go back to how things were. No, that's not what forgiveness is. You might forgive somebody and have all the love in your heart for them and never speak to their ass ever again. It just depends on the dynamic. So with that being said, Libra, I am so proud of you. Congratulations. I look forward to continuing to watch our progression as a collective, and I will talk to you very soon. Be well.